Settle down, unwind, see me, feeling free, a cup of tea, please me, better now, you're mine, tease me, slowly now, but don't.
Welcome to the beautiful Mindvalley community. I'm just admitting everyone into this call. It's lovely to see you all on this beautiful Valentine's Day. Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited that Dr. Scott Mills is going to grace us with his presence in a few minutes, and he's got a wonderful call designed for us today, so enjoy.
Good morning, everybody. So happy to see you here. Vivienne and I are just so excited that we have Dr. Scott Mills today. And we also have a beautiful surprise for you, and that's coming up. You are here for an amazing day and to welcome this wonderful day of love. And I see that we have so many people from so many countries, and people are still just coming in, and it's amazing to see our community come together today on a Sunday. And Dr. Scott Mills, as you all know, was an integral part of the Money EQ course that Mindvalley has set forth for us with the amazing Ken Honda. And so he's here to share his amazing teachings and in the flesh. And we are just so incredibly excited that you're all here. And perhaps we can bring Dr. Scott in when he's ready. And I just like to introduce a few people. We have the beautiful Edie here, who is Dr. Scott's community weaver. And she's here as part of the team with Vivienne and myself. And Dr. Scott is also going to introduce the brothers who are, well, I'll let him do that when the time is right. Good morning, Dr. Scott from Portland. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so good. And I'm so excited. I see all of these fabulous faces and people from all over the world. And I just learned, this is so fun. Someone just said, oh, I took the Money EQ course, although they said it in whatever the name was in Spanish. It rolled by so fast. In Spanish. I didn't even know it had come out in Spanish. It's so cool.
Yes. Absolutely. Mindvalley is expanding so broadly right now, so don't be surprised if your teachings are also in Polish or in Czech or in German. Yes, there's a lot of movement right now. We are trying to reach global, and it's happening right now. So welcome, welcome. And I just want to request with everyone to please keep yourselves muted until it is your turn to speak when we get into the engagement with Dr. Scott a little bit later on the call. And now that we are here, Dr. Scott, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what it's like in Portland today and the Zoom room and your office being in Zoom and your reach into awakening the entire planet.
Oh my gosh, what a great place to start. You know, it's funny. I'm one of those people that had already been pretty online before COVID hit. About, I think 8 or 9 years ago, I moved my entire business virtually. All the work I do, I have had people come to Portland and work with me, particularly authors who are writing books. But it was actually a fairly easy transition. But what was fascinating is as COVID got started, it shifted the focus of everything I've done in the last year. Because for me, I run everything I do, I run intuitively. It's like, where's my heart leading me? What's the next thing that's important? Where am I feeling called? And it really was to help people feel more supported, more grounded, more connected to their own center in the midst of what's been a lot of chaos. So, working with people all over the world this past year in Super Resilience has just been extraordinary. It's just, and to come and be part of this amazing group, what a gift to be here. And for all of you to be my Valentine and me to be yours. I love this.
Valentine is incredibly special because, as you know, I have been on some of your amazing webinars. And that day when we show up with the same T-shirt that says "Made of Love," I do believe that this was meant to be, and the script's already written. And a little bit later on in the call, everyone, we're going to introduce some of Dr. Scott's programs, and the beautiful Edie and Vivienne will put that all up on the screen because they're just amazing. They really touched my heart, and I know that. Well, Dr. Scott and I got into a little bit of an exercise the last time that I was there by surprise. They took me very, very deeply, which I'm just so excited that you're sharing that with the Mindvalley community today. So thank you so much for being here. And the other thing that I'd like to mention is Dr. Scott has his own way of really, really getting deep within us. So it will go quite deep and quite beautiful into our consciousness and this state of belonging that we all so want and it's so needed on the planet is right here for us today with Dr. Scott. So here we go. The floor is yours.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so appreciative. And I want to just tell you in advance, while we go deep, I actually am not super interested in the stories. So, and I'm saying this because I want people to know that you can be open to ask questions, to ask for coaching, ask for support, and you can be vulnerable without having to worry about sharing all the little details, which sometimes we get nervous about. So first of all, I just got to thank you. Christina and Vivienne have done such an amazing job creating this opportunity and getting everyone organized and bringing all you beautiful people into the room. It's so beautiful to be here on Valentine's Day and to celebrate and play in this space of love and belonging. And this is going to be a really special morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, where we open our hearts to deep love and super resilience. And I have to tell you, I woke up this morning in a place of deep gratitude for all of you joining us. And I want to just call it a special thanks for Edie, for Christina, and Vivienne, who made all of this happen this week. And I also want to just honor Edie and Christina particularly because this is their birthday weeks. So we're getting to celebrate with both of them. So beautiful. And I wanted to do something really special to begin our time together today. So I invited two dear friends of mine to share a musical meditation. Now, some of you may already know them from their tours with Pink and Coldplay. You may have seen them on TV. When I met them, I didn't know any of their resume. I didn't know that they were these big, famous, amazing people. I just knew they were open-hearted, love-filled guides for so many of us in the personal development world. They're not only musicians, they're healers in their own right. And part of that healing has been coming to me as I've been working on an album with them. And I've come to think of them as midwives to the music in your soul. So I'm going to invite you to listen to this beautiful musical meditation with presence. Now, when we say that, it means we just don't want to consume the way sometimes we do on the radio. We listen, oh, okay, I'm going to bop my head. But we want to listen for what this music is inviting in you. Whatever you need to hear in this moment, whatever you need to feel, allow it to arise. So with just so much appreciation and gratitude, let me introduce the kin, otherwise known as Isaac and Torald Corin. Thank you both so much for being here.
Scott, thank you so much for having us, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Thank you, Christina and Edie, Mindvalley community. We're so blown away to be with you this morning.
It's such a pleasure, and what a beautiful day. Happy Valentine's Day to each of you, wherever you are. And this song we're going to sing is about love in its easiest form. And so much of our, shared global culture is about, the struggles around love at times. And this song is instead a call to stand in the center of the container of love that comes with grace and with ease, that love is there for each of us to experience and for each of us to call in gently. So this is about that gentle love. Okay, here we go. Settle down, unwind, see me, feeling free, a cup of tea, please me, better now, you're mine, tease me. Slowly now, but don't rush, release me. Let your golden hair down, let me drown, roll me around and take easy. Everything is easy with you. Easy, skin on skin, where life begins. Squeeze me, breathe you in, sampling, we're spinning. Hold me tight, it feels so right. We're falling out of light, our size align. I could die tonight. Let your golden hair down, let me drown, roll me around and take me high, easy. Everything is easy with you. Easy, easy. Everything is easy with you. Easy with you. Easy with you.
Thank you so much. You know, our greatest wish for you is to fall hopelessly back in love with you, who you are at the core. You know, that's not an ego thing. That's a you at the core is unique, is precious, is one of a kind, is gorgeous. You know, and we get to experience people through their voice, which is a vulnerable and powerful representative of who they are. And so just to fall in love with the sound of your own voice is falling in love with who you are at the core, we find.
And over the last 6 years, Isaac and I have gotten to do that with hundreds of people, actually thousands in this capacity now. And it's so simple that at the core of each one of us is a voice. We believe everybody is a singer, and that we've just lost that natural rite of passage, or at least some of us have. And it's about coming back to that opportunity. It's not out of us, it's actually in us to biologically be hardwired to express ourselves at every moment. And so each of those parts of ourselves that make up this big voice you have is our mission to help unearth and help people reconnect and re-empower to it.
And so that love or that peace that we are looking for is inside us, that we find is inside us. And so music is that beautiful doorway, that key to open that door and walk right in. And we want to sing you a song about belonging. A song we wrote about these two brothers that have been fighting for over 2,000 years. And this is a song of peace, of coming together, of putting down the swords, and seeing that we are this same tree, this same big family tree. It's called Abraham. There's a tale told by sailors of two sons and their father as they sail to old Palestine. True were these brothers, they sailed to bury their father. They would fight for Jerusalem. You will be meek when I am able. You'll be the salt upon the table. But when all is said and done, could you somehow be sons of Abraham? I was told by a stranger, a young blood thrown to the desert, he united the people with his hands. In the way to the present, he fed the lion to the pheasant. He would stride to the spring of Zamzam. You will be meek when I am able. You'll be the salt upon the table. When all is said and done, could you somehow be sons of Abraham? You will be meek when I am able. You'll be the salt upon the table. When all is said and done, could you somehow be sons of Abraham? Now there's a tale told by soldiers of a young boy taken to slaughter. He was saved by his father's hand. Ooh, he was prized and protected, and Prince was he elected. He was to save the wolves with love. You will be meek when I am able. You'll be the salt upon the table. When all is said and done, could you somehow be sons of Abraham? You will be meek when I am able. You'll be the salt upon the table. When all is said and done, could you somehow be sons of Abraham? You will be meek when I am able. And you'll be the salt upon the table. When all is said and done, could you somehow be sons of Abraham? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mindvalley.
Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm just watching so many people just say how amazing you two are. And I just adore you, love you. Thank you so much for sharing your music with us this morning. We could go home now and have complete in a sense of deep love, but we got some more to do. So I want you to do one thing before we send Isaac and Torald off. I love this, what I call love calibration. So what I want you to do is just for a moment as you're listening on this call, we've been tuning your heart to love. So just feel the openness in your heart right now. Find that space in you that just opened up. Music is one of the most powerful ways we can open our hearts to a sense of belonging, to connection. And I have something I say quite often. I don't know where this came from. I don't know if it's mine or it was a gift from someone else. But we just put one hand on our hearts, and we say, from my heart to your heart, from your heart to mine. And we just want to send our love to these amazing men who have gifted us with their music today. Just let that grow in you. You're going to have this experience grow the entire morning. So as we step in just a moment, Christina and I are going to have a little more conversation. But I want to let you know I'm not here to tell you about belonging today, but rather to help you feel your sense of belonging in the inextricable web of life, to borrow a phrase from Martin Luther King Jr., that web that connects us all. So I'm going to talk a little and try to create a lot. My commitment to you is to show up fully present and open hearted as I'm able. And if you're willing to do the same, just want to invite you to say a big heart yes in the chat. Just a big heart yes. And send our love off to the Corn Brothers. Thank you both. Thanks, boys. Beautiful. It's so hard to go back to talking after listening to such beautiful music. Hmm. All right, we could sit here all day, Christina, but let's get into it. I'm too excited now that this energy is moving in us.
Thank you so much. Oh, the brothers, that was incredibly beautiful. Thank you for being here and blessing us with your gorgeous voices and your presence. Really means a lot. And what a beautiful surprise, Dr. Scott. Thank you for bringing them. It was a surprise even for me. I knew it would be beautiful, but that was just beyond. Thank you. So, Dr. Scott, here we are. And I only have a couple of questions because I know that the community we're interested in a little bit of stories, and we all have a past. And not that we want to dwell in the past, but what I'm interested in knowing is a little bit about your upbringing and what was the pivotal point in which you knew that this was going to be your divine purpose in your lifetime, to share your divinity and raising the consciousness of the planet. At what point did that happen for you?
Wow, that is a really big question. So beautiful. I want to jump into this question, but it's such an interesting one for me. I still don't have the sense that my purpose is to change the consciousness of the planet. I love the way you say it. I feel like that's a really big expression, and I've got a little bit more of a humble goal, which is just to be present today and connect my heart to your heart and back and forth. And that's really all I think about from day to day. Um, the place that this comes from for me, I grew up in a pretty chaotic environment. I grew up with really good people, but some people also who were um, pretty difficult, some family members, and I also grew up getting bullied a lot. And so I had like left and right this feeling of there's nowhere in the world that's safe. The world is full of chaos. And at the same time, like I can't remember a time where I didn't want to be in service, where my heart wasn't reaching out to other people in pain, other people who needed more than I did. So it's funny, for so many people, they come into this work that I'm doing as kind of a second career, but I've actually been doing this for about 30 years now, which is kind of amazing to even say that, just to hear it myself. But I started at 17 years old working on a crisis intervention hotline, and I've never had a plan. I still don't have a plan. People who work with me as business consultants are always like, "What? You don't have a plan?" And I have a little plan for like 90 days or so, but I follow the heart, and the heart just has led me to one act of service after another, and that's looked like a whole bunch of different things. For a while that was being a college professor, university professor, which I loved. I loved teaching students. I worked for a long time as a social worker, particularly around HIV prevention with youth. Created a federal demonstration project for kids whose parents were often incarcerated or had passed away. really intense work, homeless kids. And then about 14 years ago, I stepped into this world of personal development, which I still don't feel like I totally belong in, um, because I find myself being kind of a teacher, um, and a little too simple sometimes for that world. But yeah, so for about 14 years now, I've been doing this mentoring, guiding, teaching, and researching. And along the way, I picked up a PhD in religion and psych, and then did a whole bunch of training to figure out, I think largely coming back from that young version of myself that was still trying to unravel chaos, and was still trying to release some of the trauma that I had experienced. So, did a lot of training to figure out how the brain works and how to create that level of peace. So, yeah, and here we are today with people from all over the world joining us. And, I have to say, there are so many days, Edie can attest to this, where um, I just literally feel like I have to pinch myself and say, wow, I just was able to invite the Corn brothers to sing for you. The folks that I'm in conversation with, the folks who are on this call, and I get to do what I do. It's what an extraordinary gift. So, when I say I wake up with gratitude, I have a question that Steve Jobs asked every day. I don't know when he started this, but definitely towards the end of his life, which was, if this was my last day to live, would I be happy with the way I spent it? And I have that on my bathroom mirror. And I look at that question every day. And amazingly, just about every day, it's a huge yes. And already today, it's a huge yes.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we got you now.
So, and the last thing that I want to ask you, because on some of your media, there's this picture of you at the White House.
Oh, yeah.
A podium. And I'm really interested in how that came about for you, and what was it like to be addressing?
Oh, so that is a funny picture. Okay. So that is actually that picture you're talking about was standing at when you watch news conferences at the White House, the press secretary speaks behind it. So that was not me working at the White House. That was back when I lived in DC, and I had I had an opportunity to have a private tour with some friends, because one of our friends had led. I don't remember what the name for it is, but had done a lot with Hillary Clinton way back in the day. So that was back when I was living in DC and wanting to do more work in the political realm. I had gone back to DC after grad school, wanting to work with Children's Defense Fund, and really do political stuff in the spiritual kind of realm. And really quickly realized that that was not where my heart was. That where my heart was kind of in the muck and the mud with people, was working with folks in ways that I could see transformation happening. Um, so that's where that picture is from. But I grew up in DC, and it's funny because I think, folks will often ask me about my background, and they're surprised that, I grew up with parents who both had top secret security clearance and in this world of a Cold War. Um, and it informed who I am. It informed a lot of my life, because that experience of seeing so much kind of political um, infighting and confusion, and it set me in this place where I just want to be a yes to what I'm doing. I don't want to negotiate. I don't want to hide. I don't want to um, be anybody that I'm not. So I think that's it was a pretty big shift, because that was the place I thought I was going, um, and really felt like that wasn't where my heart was leading me.
Very beautiful. And in life, we often find that we have a purpose at this point in time, and then all of a sudden the heart calls for something else. And so, without further ado, we're all super excited to feel this belonging and the super resilience that we all want to be in the world. So why don't you please enter us into your realm of
Beautiful.
heart?
I love it. I feel a little bit like Willy Wonka at the front door of the chocolate factory. I don't know if you've all seen this movie, but he's inviting people into this beautiful, lovely world of possibility. So I'm excited to do that with you today, and I just thank you, Christina, for asking these beautiful questions to get us started. Like I said earlier, I'm going to teach very little today in an effort to lead you into an experience of belonging, I actually threw out my first plan for this workshop yesterday and said, I have a podcast called It's All About Belonging in My Human Evolutionaries podcast. You can listen and get the details of what is some of the thinking behind belonging. But I wanted to take advantage of the collective energy in this room, the capacity that we have to hold space for each other. Some folks call this the capacity to plus each other, but we are this beautiful love circuit that we are calibrating to each other. So as we step into our hearts and we allow ourselves to feel that, and we started that already with the Corn Brothers, that as that happens, we connect to each and every person in this room. This is not just kind of beautiful thinking. There's actually a lot of science behind it, again, which we could point to, but the ways in which we are designed to co-regulate, to calibrate to each other. So what I'm going to do is, I think about today as more of a retreat than a conversation. That doesn't mean there's not lots of room for talking and hearing your voices, but it means that we're going to go through some experiences. So I'm going to lead you through an engagement of 4 movements of belonging. So I'll explain them to you and then we'll jump in. So the first movement of belonging, and I talk about belonging, by the way, in super resilience, because for me, and I should say this from the beginning, super resilience is the capacity to trust life, to ask for what you need when you need it, to receive fully and to give without expectation. So that's the core of what I teach. And that capacity to trust life, to receive, to ask, to give, it starts usually with a feeling of belonging. And so many of us feel like there's nowhere we can belong. So the first movement is to arrive in this moment and open your hearts. You did this with the Corn Brothers. You'll continue to do this. For those of you who like to finish what you started, you're already on your way. Check the box. We're going to get you somewhere very cool today. For those of you who get scared along the way, sometimes when you're trying to love yourself and others, I want you to know you're among friends who will hold up a mirror to your own light. You're a source of infinite love. We've confused love sometimes, thinking we have to find it outside of ourselves, find belonging outside of ourselves. These are infinite resources inside of ourselves that we'll be connecting to. We already are. We don't even have to do anything. We just have to notice they're there. I'll just share a beautiful quote. I was interviewing Dr. Sue Morter, who wrote the Energy Codes down in Mexico a few years ago. And she said to me, people get confused about abundance, just part of why I like teaching this money EQ stuff. But she said, abundance is not about receiving. Abundance is about perceiving, so seeing that what you've asked for is already there. So as we step in today, just noticing that what you've asked for is already there, this wellspring of infinite love and belonging inside you. So the second movement that we're going to step into, I call coming home to yourself. And we'll begin to know what it feels like in this place to put down our weapons. We are so harsh with ourselves, our criticisms, our judgments, our accusations. We're going to put all those down and find some peace in ourselves. We may notice on the way that we're inviting people onto the battlefield with us when we are in that place of fight. And that is not a space to invite romance or friendship or anything else. So we're going to see what it feels like to come home to yourself. The third movement, I call releasing what no longer serves you. You can notice these names are not super fancy. I want you to remember what they are. So I'm going to make them simple. So just as we make peace with the inside, we'll make a little bit of peace on the outside. We'll perhaps notice when our attention is. I'm just going to repeat that to you. We'll notice when our attention is. Is it in the past, the present, or the future? Perhaps we'll have a laugh with ourselves about how often we're dancing with ghosts, spending our time in the past or the future, and how little we may be living and dancing with those in our lives. In the South, where I was raised, there's an expression that we can try on. You dance with the one who brought you. So let's see if we can release some of what's no longer serving you and create a space to more freely dance. And then the last thing we'll do, the last movement, will be to become love, to invite love. Become love to invite love. I just love that phrase. Rumi says, "You are not a drop of water in the ocean. You're an ocean in a drop of water." We're going to notice that you are love, every bit of you. And we're going to also notice, in the words of T.S. Eliot, when we shall not cease from that we shall not cease from exploration, and at the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. So that is my hope as we become love to invite love, is that as we go on this journey, that ultimately we end right back where you are in this moment. It'll be another moment, it'll be a later moment, of course, and you'll be the person you were when you began. Maybe a little different. Maybe you'll notice some new things about yourself, but we'll be at that place and we'll experience yourself for the first time in a new way. And yes, I'm going to engage the poets and the mystics today because they speak the language of the heart. So you're going to hear a lot of poetry. You're going to hear some mystic speaking. Um, and we're going to play a lot. So that's the last thing I'll notice with you before we jump in. I'm going to invite lots of opportunities for coaching, but I'm going to save most of that to the end. And then I'll just open space and I will work with you one-on-one. If you've ever been on a call with me before, you know that's actually one of the greatest joys of my life, is to be able to be in conversation and to play. And as Christina said, you don't really know where we're going to go because I don't know where we're going to go. This is about you. So we'll play together. So let's jump into our first movement, as if we hadn't already. So I want to start with a poem from the Persian mystic Hafiz. Hafiz says, "You are the sun in drag. You are God hiding from yourself. Remove all the mine. That is the veil. Why ever worry about anything? Listen to what your friend Hafiz knows for certain. The appearance of this world is a magi's brilliant trick. Though its affairs are nothing into nothing, you are a divine elephant with amnesia trying to live in an anthole. Sweetheart, oh, sweetheart, you are God in drag." Can you just feel that for a minute? What if you were God hiding from yourself? Do you think it would be possible for you not to belong, to have no place to come home to? Now, I'm going to ask questions sometimes that are not seeking an immediate answer, because I work from a Buddhist Taoist frame quite often. These are called koans. They just invite parts of your brain to wake up. And one of the questions I ask over and over, it's one of my favorite questions to ask myself. I've been sitting with this question for, I think, about 6 months or a year now. But I ask people all the time, and I want you to allow this to just be a question that you let stew today. Who will you be when you know that you unquestionably belong? Who will you be when you know that you unquestionably belong? Part of why I love this question is that usually when I ask people this, I get kind of almost like shocked faces, a little startled response. Like, what? Me? I could belong? There's this place in us that doesn't ever feel like we land, while at the same time, we're a social species. We're humans are designed to interact, to love, to connect, to be one with each other. The only delusion that we share is that we are somehow separate. So I want to drop in for just a moment and give this a little bit of context. Talk a little bit about the 3 ways we go to war with ourselves. There's probably more, but there's 3 that I notice as we step into the sense of belonging. I notice that many of us engage in what the Chinese like to call death by 1,000 cuts. Death by 1,000 cuts. Now, if you search this on Google, you'll find it's a form of torture and execution originating from Imperial China. You'll also find it's a Taylor Swift song. You make of that what you will. I will simply notice that there are so many ways that we forget who we are. So many ways that we go to war with ourselves. So many everyday tiny cuts. So notice for yourself how many tiny cuts you're inflicting on yourself. There's 3 flavors of these I notice a lot. The first is the war we put with our mind. Now, I'm a little weird in the personal development world in this regard, because when people tell me that they self-sabotage, that they resist, that there's inner critics, I kind of have a little of that Hafiz in me. It goes, "Oh, sweetheart, sweetheart, you're God in drag. Let's notice that none of these things are real." People get mad at me sometimes for saying this because they're really invested in the wars they have with their minds. So, one of the places we'll play is what happens when we notice our minds are actually working in our favor. They're always working for the good of us. And I'll show you this one. You don't have to believe me. Don't worry. The second little place of war we go is with our hearts, with our emotions. How many of us feel sad and we push it away? Or we feel angry and we push it down? We feel all these emotions and we won't allow ourselves to feel them. Just notice if you ever do that. Those places where you feel hurt, you feel disappointed. Now, I'm not suggesting that we need to go out and shout it from the rooftops of the world, but I am suggesting that every bit of you is here for the good of you. And particularly our emotions are here to be messengers for us, to share things that are important for us to know. So just notice if you're at war with your heart. And then the third one is perhaps the most obvious one in our culture and cultures across the globe, that we may be at war with our bodies. How many of us wish we were taller or shorter, or that our ears were bigger or smaller, our nose was a different shape, or our skin was a different color, our hair was different? All of the ways we beat up our body, we force it into these ideal images of people that we can't hope to be and probably wouldn't want to be. So just notice if any of those apply to you. And if they do, I want to say a big welcome to the human race, right? It just means you're human. We all engage in a bit of this. But what do we do about it? How do we find peace? That's where I want to start today. So let's jump into a little exercise and see what happens. Edie's going to be putting the steps up in the chat so you can take this process with you. You don't have to worry about catching what I say the first time. She'll put them up for you. So where did I go? So my goal is to leave you with this exercise, all of these exercises, so you can actually engage your brain more. So I need a volunteer who fulfills 2 criteria. And Christina's going to help you she'll pick the volunteer for us. Just raise your hand so she knows who fits these 2 criteria. So criteria 1 is you're human. So I need a human who has some bit of war with yourself. You know, don't put up your cat or your dog, or if you're from another planet and they don't, if you're from another planet and you experience this, it's fine. But as long as you're human, we're going to be good. And the second is someone who's willing to let me work with you to calm down the battle within you in one of the safest, most loving groups you could ever experience. So Christina will put that person up as soon as she has divined. I feel a little bit like we're in Harry Potter with the sorting hat.
Yeah. The first hand I saw that went up was Marcus.
Marcus.
So
Beautiful.
yes, Marcus, let's go.
Marcus, where are you? Say something so I get you on my screen.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for raising your hand so quickly. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to ask you about your experience.
Okay.
So you don't have to share like a ton of, this is the story. We love to get in the story. Like we love to share our stories and get super attached to them. You might be human like me too. And I suspect we both do those things. It's like, but I want to teach you a process. So first of all, I just want to thank you for volunteering. Anytime who volunteers in this room, I want to acknowledge that you're making a path for us all. So can everyone just put one hand on your heart and allow one hand to reach out and simply say thank you to Marcus. My heart reaches out to your heart, even as your heart reaches out to mine. We're in this connection. Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to help you find a center in yourself, Marcus. And what I'd like is everyone in the room, I want you to follow along with these steps. It just helps us to have an avatar, not like in the movie Avatar, although it would be extraordinary if you were tall and blue and kind of glowy, the giant tail, but you're not. We're humans. So we're going to be an avatar that allows us to kind of focus our energy and go through this experience together. So, first thing, Marcus, can you think of an area where you wish life was different, something where you might have been at war with yourself? Now, don't tell me any of the details. Just tell me if you can think of an area where
Yep,
that's true.
I can. Yes. Straight
Beautiful.
away. Yep.
Straight away. Most of us can. They just come right up for us. Oh, there we go. And I just figured out how to get you on my screen. Awesome. So, so what I want you to do is all of us, let's just take a few breaths in. We're just going to take a few breaths. Now, everything I do starts with breath. So keep breathing, Marcus, all the way down into your belly, and everyone else. We're going to always start with breath because we carry it with us everywhere and it's free. Anytime we need to get back into our parasympathetic nervous system, we can just breathe. Now, if anyone in the room, including you, Marcus, begins to feel like, oh, I'm feeling a little heavy, this is a little new, just tune into my voice, tune into, you can look at me, my breath, and just let this be an anchor. There's nothing to fear here. So I just want you to scan your body and find whatever part of you is crying out for attention in this regard. It might be sadness, it might be anger, it might be envy. All we know is it will be an emotion that wants to speak to you. And we know it wants to speak to you because our emotions are just messengers who are working for the good of us all the time. Do you have one of those?
Yes.
Okay, so where is it in your body?
So it is around my sort of gut area.
Gut area. I love this accent, by the way. Where are you from?
I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland.
I love it. Very fun. Okay, so you said right on your gut. So just put your hand on your gut. Is it going to be easier for those of you who are kinesthetic? You don't always have to put your hand on the area. So if you're doing this on a subway, and it turns out it's like, at your ears or something, you could just imagine. But for right now, we're going to use our hands. So if it doesn't already have a color, can you give it one, that area where that's showing up? And what's the color?
Purple.
Purple, great. And the color is really unimportant. So don't try to give it a meaning. We just want to be able to see it. So ask this purple, do we know what this emotion is? The main emotion you're feeling there?
Yes, it would be sort of envious.
Envy, great. Purple envy. So we're just going to ask this emotion if it's willing to be seen. And of course, we know the answer is yes, because that's all emotions ever really want. And then I want you to invite it to move about arm's distance out in front of you. And for some of you, it may be a little reluctant because so many of us have tried to push, exile, get rid of these emotions. So just let this part of you know that we're going to just let it come right back in a few moments. We just want to see it. So go ahead and move it about an arm's length away. Beautiful. And the very first thing I want you to do is simply to see this envy, this thing we've been calling envy. And we're going to acknowledge it. I see you, envy. There's no judgment. Notice this is a soft welcome. I see you, envy. I see you. I see you. That's all we got to do. Now, if all we did was started to see our emotions and acknowledge them, life would change pretty dramatically, pretty quickly. But I want you to take a next step and just thank this emotion. Thank this thing we've been calling envy, because it's been working really hard for you. It's been putting out a lot of energy. We don't have to think it's doing the right thing. We don't have to make it anything but just appreciate all the energy it's putting out. So can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Now I want you to breathe that all the way down into your belly. I feel like you're a little bit up here still. So just really let yourself feel that appreciation. Yeah. Sometimes there's this part of us that wants to brace against these emotions, even when we're in communication with them. So just if that's happening for anybody, just breathe all the way down to your belly. And we're going to do something really simple here. We're just going to ask that thing we've called envy. We're going to do what Thich Nhat Hanh has this beautiful poem called Call Me by My True Name. And for years, I've been thinking about this with our emotions. If we could call them by our true name, our relationship would change. So the way we get there is just to ask that part of you what its highest intention for you is. Make sure you're asking it, not your brain. So what's its highest intention for you?
I think it's almost to progress me forward, I'm feeling.
And what happens when you progress forward?
I get closer to the goal.
Okay. So this is not such a terrible thing, is it?
Well, I don't know. Yes. No, I know. No, it's
intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of what we notice with these is that sometimes the actions of these part of us are a little unskillful. They're usually using some old tools. Do you have any kids?
No, not that I know of.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, so one of the things I often share with people, any little ones in your life?
Yes.
Nieces, nephews?
Yes.
Beautiful. So if one of those nieces or nephews came to you, you were staying over at their home, and they woke up and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to do something super special for Uncle Marcus. I'm going to make him breakfast. We're going to surprise him. Maybe we're going to sing him a song." So they came in, they'd made you a pickle, peanut butter, and I don't know, avocado sandwich. Is there any chance that you would take that from them, throw it on the floor, stomp on it, and be like, "Oh my gosh, you little beasts, go make me something better"?
No, I'd probably eat it.
Yeah, right. Because, and this is the same thing these emotions are doing for us. Sometimes they've just gotten trapped. So can you notice if you hold this emotion, this envy? By the way, you're laughing, there's some light coming in. As soon as we start laughing, there's some lightness that shows up. So can you just notice that this is sort of like that peanut butter, pickle, and avocado sandwich? So that, but the highest intention is to keep you moving ahead. Now, my suspicion is that this is to help you have a sense of significance, that you're important to people, that you matter. Does that feel right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this part of you is just trying to make sure that you matter. Not such a bad thing.
No.
So can we ask that part of you? Here's the fun part. Can we ask that part of you that you've been resisting, that you've been spending all this energy trying to push away, we're always doing this, if it would be willing to partner with you to find some easier and better ways to help you know that you matter to other people and to be significant? We don't have to know what those ways are. We just want to ask if it'd be willing to kind of play in that space.
Okay.
Did we get a yes?
Yes, indeed.
Beautiful. Can you just notice, just for fun, and everybody on the call who are watching, this is part of what I mean by avatar for us all. Marcus's energy, his breathing has moved down into his body. And I feel more calm with you now. I think everybody probably does. And because you're more calm, like you're more grounded here. So can you notice, just for fun, there's no meaning behind this at all, but just notice if there's any change in the color, the texture, how you feel about this purple, what was envy.
It's strange because it sort of feels a bit more transparent, actually.
Beautiful. It's making itself more available.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So just thank it for showing up here, letting us have a little conversation. And when you're ready, invite it to come back into your body, either in the same place or a place that's more appropriate now. How's that?
Yeah, it's great.
It's okay. See how simple this was? I didn't need to know any of your story. You don't need to engage the story. So any point that something's coming up, you're feeling a little like what you do all the time, right? We feel angry, we feel sad, we feel anxious. Doesn't mean we can't act on the information, but this is a different way of getting curious with your emotions so we don't have to be at war with them. Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you so much for playing along for a minute.
No worries. Enjoy. Yeah. I'm very much enjoying this. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Beautiful. Awesome. So let's all thank Marcus. It's really funny at the beginning because I was missing the screen. I thought he had pink hair and his mouth was not quite matching with his words. So I have to just enjoy. I want to just get a couple shares just for maybe like 30-second, 1-minute shares from folks who did that exercise with us, along with us. How was that for you? And you're just going to raise your hand. Really quick shares. I'm not going to do much coaching unless it just sneaks out. But just quick shares.
Let's see. Julianne, would you like to share? Where did she go? She had her hand up. Okay, we'll come back to Julianne. Oh, there you go. Hi.
I think we found her. So just to how was that for you?
On my hand because I don't know. I thought the lower hand is going down from like automatic. So someone puts it down like automatic.
Hey, Julianne. I'm going to ask, let's just jump into the share because I want to get about 3 or 4 of these and we've got another movement. So what was that like for you? What did you notice?
Well, I had a different thing and kind of, so the area where I had the feeling, like the emotion, that I had pain. And so this pain kind of went down and it kind of went to a different color. I'm not sure if it's a good color because mine went darker. So I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not, but it kind of.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful noticing. Here's with the colors, don't worry about the colors' meaning. So what we're playing here with is curiosity. So one of the main things that I teach is that when we can get curious and engage in our emotions, so we just get curious about what's going on with them, then we can be in relationship to them. It doesn't matter if it's darker, it doesn't matter if it's lighter. For some people, it's not going to change at all. They're just going to see the same color they saw. That's okay. It's just to engage the curiosity. But what I noticed is you said that your pain went down.
Yeah.
Just by being in relationship. Beautiful. So that's a great one. Thank you. Let's get like 1 or 2 more. This just helps me to calibrate with the room.
Maru.
And Anna says she has the urge to have a peanut butter sandwich now. Just don't put the avocados and pickles on it, unless you like that. So Marie. Where's our next person?
Maru, are you with us?
Yes, I am here. I don't know. Can you hear me all right?
There you go. I see you.
Okay.
So how was that for you, Maru? What did you notice?
I noticed that I didn't want it back in.
Okay. So did it not change for you?
Yeah, it did. It did. But I just, but that was the feeling. There was the feeling that it's been enough. I mean, I think it's time to move.
So let me ask you a question. What was the original feeling?
The original feeling was resistance and still resistance.
So resistance isn't a feeling. What's the feeling underneath resistance?
Fear.
Fear. So let's hang with fear. So I'm just going to hang with this for a second. Did you step into fear at all? When we did that exercise, or did you use fear as to feel where the fear was in you? Or did you just hang with resistance?
I think I got lost with resistance. Yeah.
This is a beautiful noticing. Thank you for bringing this up. So this is kind of the normal way we respond to our emotions. We want to resist them. You just hung out in the normal space. So this is really good noticing for you to come back through the exercise again and notice, and I'll just get you started on the first piece of this. If you think about where your fear is, where in your body does the fear live? Just scan through your body and notice. Usually we'll feel it more present in one place than another.
Yeah, I feel it, yeah.
Where does it show up?
It's trapped on my knees.
Knees, beautiful. So you already started to notice that?
Yeah.
So then we just go through the process with fear. Because here's what I know. Okay. That feeling of fear is never about fear. So if you resist feeling it, you stay at war. But if you just say, okay, I'm going to feel this fear. I'm going to allow myself to bring it out of my body so I can be in conversation with it.
Okay.
I'm going to see it. I'm going to thank it. I'm going to do an accelerated version here. What's the highest intention for this fear for you?
To become a better person.
Oh, that's terrible. Who would want to become a better person, right? I'm teasing you a little bit here. Um, is it so bad to want to become a better person?
No, it isn't. It's a surprise. Yeah, it isn't.
Okay, so what if you were to just ask that part of you that was that fear in your knees if you could partner with it to create easier and better ways for you to become a better person, which is usually to become more loved, to experience more love. Um, would it be willing to do that with you? Just ask.
Yeah, it is willing to do that with me.
Beautiful. Is there any reason to resist that?
No.
Yeah, there you go. So let
There
it
is.
come back into your body wherever it makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up. So I want to especially acknowledge you because sometimes people feel like they did it wrong and so they don't ask. They get small and they're like, "Meh, I'm going to just hide because I did it wrong." This is just learning, right? So you ask the question, you give yourself the space to be a little vulnerable, and you probably opened up space for many, many more people in the room and for
Okay.
yourself. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I love it. See how easy this is? So I'm going to jump into the next movement because I know we will have a breakout. We're just going to do it a little later because I want to do the second movement before we go into breakout. So I'm going to need another volunteer.
Hey, can we have Nolan, please? Nolan.
Okay.
Are you there with us?
So give me a second, Nolan, before we get started. So we're going to keep you on mute for a moment so I can explain where we are. And
thank you, Maru.
Thank you so much, Maru. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, person whose name that it just fell out of my head. But all three of you for sharing.
Oh. Yeah, thank you, Marcus. And Nolan's going to come on with you, Dr. Scott.
So we'll bring you on in just a minute. Awesome. Thank you, Nolan. I have to write people's names down. I get in kind of a wacky altered state when I do these. So let's jump into movement 3, which is the movement to release what no longer serves you. We're going to keep going. We're going to deepen this a little bit. So Rumi says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass that the world is too full to talk about. I'm going to repeat that. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Can you take a breath and feel that field? Just breathe all the way down in your belly. We're already in that field. We have been since the Corn Brothers started our movement today. It's that place where your soul can just rest, where your judging mind, your accusing mind, your sorting mind can simply rest and see the oneness in us all. We're talking about forgiveness, but as we step into it, I want you to know that forgiveness doesn't mean what you think it means. It does not mean making something right or wrong. It simply means releasing the energy that we're expending dancing with ghosts. You retain all the information that those experiences can offer, all the wisdom, and you don't let whatever happened in the past pollute the rest of your life. So we're going to do a little Maitri compassion exercise with a few twists I've added for good measure. We're seeing a little Buddhism come back in again. I know, I just love it. So we'll do this so we can find even more space in ourselves to belong to life, to each other, and to ourselves. So if there's someone you might like to release today, and I'm going to talk to you in a minute, Nolan, but I want you to do this as well. Consider writing their name on a piece of paper. So if mom or dad or the dog or your high school teacher, whoever you've been holding a grudge against, they hurt you. And we're getting a little click-clacketing in the background. So if you're typing, maybe just make sure you're on mute. And it's important for you to write the name down. Even if it's imaginary on a piece of paper, like you could be sitting in your car, you just write it like, write Bob with your finger. And I'll tell you, I spend a week when I teach this in Super Resilience. So I want you to know that we're going to take a powerful step, but if you have a really big grudge, you have a really big accusation, you've been holding a resentment a long time, it may take a little bit. Particularly because it can be hard to let go of our pain because we imagine that we earned the reward on the other side. We need it to make sense, to search for the meaning. So I'm going to suggest that we go into the field together and not worry about anything else. So we've got Nolan, and we're going to walk through this exercise with Nolan. And again, I'm going to remind you that this isn't about telling your story. We're really working with structure, the structure of the brain. And I need a little music too. So let me get this going. Oops, it still feels a little loud. How is that, guys? Can you hear it? Christina? Yeah? Good? Awesome. Thank you so much. And let's get Nolan up here so we can see him. This is the morning of all the men. Where is Nolan? There you go. Nolan, so good to see you. Where are you in the world?
Hi, Dr. Scott. Johannesburg, South Africa.
Oh, I love it. So you're where Vivienne is as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it. Beautiful. So did you write a name down on a piece of paper?
I did.
Beautiful. Don't tell me who it is.
Okay.
This is one of those funny things where you could have multiple names. I just do one at a time for this. So I'm going to lead you. Woo. So I'm going to lead you through a little exercise here. And your job is to be the avatar for the community. I'll ask you a few things, but for the most part, I just want you to experience with us. Sound good? So I want you to set that person, that pain, that piece of paper aside for a few minutes. This is part of the reason we write it down, because as soon as it's out of our head, it's easier to actually have a relationship to it where we can move it around. And I know that I'm going to be speaking to everyone and you at the same time, but we've been carrying that person around, that pain around for so long that you may have missed some of the beauty that's come your way. Don't worry. You can pick up that pain anytime that you want, but you may find that when we come to the end of this, you don't want to hold that pain anymore. That's always your choice. So just make sure everyone has put that paper aside. There we go. It's a little loud for me. And what I want you to do first, Nolan, is to bring someone to your mind that you love unconditionally. And if it's easier for you, you can close your eyes. You don't have to see me for this. Anyone who wants to close their eyes, feel free. This can be a pet or a person, whatever welcomes your heart when it sings to you. Whatever lets your body relax now and your heart open wide as you find a place of love deeper down in your being than perhaps you knew before. Do you have that person in your mind? You can just give me a nod. Beautiful. Thank you. So we want to feel the love that you feel for that person. So breathe all the way down into your belly and call them up into your mind. And imagine there's a warm, embracing light that surrounds the two of you. It could be pink or gold or whatever color makes sense for you. You can choose to wrap yourself in love any way you choose in this moment and in all moments. Let yourself breathe into that connection with the one you're seeing now. Imagining with each breath out, you can extend your love to them. And with each breath in, you can receive their love fully and completely. And even if this feels a little new, simply notice that we're teaching your brain to receive what you've been asking for. Just let yourself soak it in. With each breath out, love and connection. With each breath in, again, love and connection. Just in this beautiful circuit. Some of you may have more than one person that you want to invite to join. So just feel all this love running. And now just for fun, because we can, I want you to imagine floating up above your body and going into a little journey into the body of the one that has been looking at you, sending you so much love. And on your journey, this beautiful connection will continue to deepen as you're wrapped in loving light. As you imagine stepping into that person now, seeing through their eyes, breathing through their lungs. Allow yourself to notice the one you were. the one they were looking at, the one they continue to look at. Look through those loving eyes, those kind and compassionate eyes, back at yourself. See what they see in this beautiful mirror for your light. And simply for a moment, feel their love beaming to you as you receive the love that you've been sending. And if you get lost in this love bath, simply relax into being wrapped in love. All the parts of you that need to know what to do can simply breathe, knowing that they and you are being taken care of in every moment now. So just take a few breaths here. When you're ready, allow yourself to float back to your body. Settle back into yourself, that love bath all around you. And take a few breaths here again. Just sink down deeper with every breath into this beautiful expression of love. And then when you're ready, you can take that tiny little folded piece of paper sitting somewhere, leave it folded up, and simply set that in the center of your circle. Allow it to remain folded. You don't have to ever open the details. For those of you who physically have a piece of paper, bring it just in front of you. Just set it in front of you. We're just going to let it sink in, be held by this love, be held in this space where you know you're enough, you belong, you're okay. And when you're ready, simply ask yourself, while held in that love, what learning can you take from that place where you were hurt with this person? This is just whatever information that you need to not repeat the situation again. And I want you to know sometimes the only information is that you were young and there was nothing you could do at the time. That you'll never be in that place again. Whatever this information is, just receive it. So often our pain is just an alarm system trying to get us to notice, to adjust our behaviors so we don't have to repeat. And once whatever information has come through, I want you to imagine that you can cut the pain cord that's been connecting you to the situation. Now, for many of you, this will be with someone you also love. So you can allow the connection of love to continue to flow, but just release the energy of accusation. You can imagine as if you had a pair of scissors, just snip it, let it go. This is that place where we call dancing with ghosts. You're not even talking to the person who is in front of you now. That's a person they once were. Continuing to hold all of this within this love bath where you feel safe and connected. And then allow yourself to make a choice, whether to let this paper sit here in this space between you, this person, and just allow the love to flow through it. Or if this is someone that no longer has a space in your life, you can allow the paper to drift away. It's okay, whichever one makes the most sense for you. Allowing yourself to feel the release that comes from no longer attaching to this pain. Just letting yourself feel all this love. We'll take about 4 more breaths here. Deep into the belly. As we return to the room, bringing all that love back with us. How is that for you, Nolan?
Yeah, it's very real. And I must be honest, I've just come off an illness at the moment, and it had a lot to do with that. Getting to get it back into my system, and then kind of releasing it and basically saying that you no longer serve me. And I imagine myself cutting my tie with this completely, where I felt that it's out of my body.
Beautiful.
No more within me causing any harm at all. So it was so in line with everything that I've experienced in the last month.
Beautiful. Well, we're so happy to have you here, healthy and with us in a way that's feeling better. For some, this may be something you want to go back to at some point and do another round. For a lot of us who've experienced illness, sometimes the word on the paper that we put in the circle might be my body. You know, especially if we felt betrayed by our body, there might be a need to give some forgiveness there. That may have been what you did. And again, I'm not asking for the story. And that's mostly so you feel your privacy and you know that that's between you and whatever that was. But for many of us, using our body, if we've had an illness, can be a really powerful one to do. Thank you for being the avatar for the community.
Thank you so much for this one. It helped a lot.
Absolutely.
Really, I mean, it's made a massive difference to me. It's been a week since I've been home, and I so needed this, and I was surprised that I got to speak to you. But thank you so much.
I'm so glad to speak to you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So I'm going to wait on having more shares until after we come from the breakout room. So in just about 2 minutes, we're going to go to a breakout room, maybe 3. I promised I would say a little bit more about the one program that we're inviting folks into before we went to the break. So I'll tell you a little bit what I'm doing now. This year I had this deep insight that the theme for the year needed to be a year of deeply connecting for me. So usually we've taught these huge classes, like I think 10,000 people have gone through Money EQ now. I wanted to be in groups where I felt like I was hanging out with my friends, where I had a little circle that I could be like, I know her and him and them and that person, and I would know all their stories. So this year I kind of shifted gears. So I'm doing 15-person beautiful conversations we call accelerators for 6 weeks at a time. Let us dive really deep into the work. And part of what I love is it's often really hard for me to explain what I do. In fact, ask my mother about what I do, and they have no idea how to explain it to their friends. They're always asking me. But you've been experiencing some of what I do. This work is what I do in the super resilience accelerator. It's helpful to have all the words. We gather once a week to do exercises and connect. Everything is experiential. There's little exercises you do through the week. What I want to tell you is that among many of the reasons I do this work is the messages we get about the changes in people's lives. So about a year ago when I started teaching this program, I got an email from a woman in England who said to me, I want to thank you so much. My daughter OD'd for the second time this weekend. I was able to go to the hospital, take care of her, and then come back and take care of myself. The whole time I stayed grounded and okay, and I could have never done that before I took your class. We read that, my team and I, and we were like, we made this happen. Not because we're magic. We just introduced people to their brains. That's what we do. And so that's been a huge part of why we keep doing what we do. So I want to tell you one last thing before we jump into the breakout groups. I did, again, like today's just, I love Mindvalley. So I got to tell you this. When I went to Malaysia to film is the Money EQ course, Vishen welcomed me and Ken into his home. We spent so much time in the beautiful Mindvalley office, and I literally had this huge heart opening. Like I had an experience of like, this is the way that this work can be created, with the love and support in the community, and then working with Christina and Vivienne. Like again, like just my heart keeps opening. So I always want to do something that I don't do everywhere for Mindvalley. So one of the things that I do about once a year is a love retreat. The love retreat is a retreat where we repattern your brain. We've been doing some of it today to open up more love. And I just want to appreciate you all for being here and for giving me a moment to talk a little bit about this program. It's really close to my heart. And yeah, so let's go into breakout groups when we're ready. And so one of the things I asked that I'm going to ask you to do is, I know we've been moving a lot of emotions today, for many of you. I know my heart is feeling really full. Sometimes when I finish these calls, like I can feel like almost like vibrating. So when you go into your calls, I want you just to again connect in very first with your group into your heart. Before anybody says anything, just let yourself feel that energy in your heart expand. You can actually feel it right now, so you'll be ready for the group. And simply look around the room with that love gaze, that beautiful, my heart reaching out to your heart. And I want you to say to everyone in the room, I see you. And you can change this to something that fits you. But I see you. And then as you receive that, say, it's so good to be seen. I see you. It's so good to be seen. And then just share from in your heart space. If you've got questions about the technical details of what I've been doing, we can answer those later because we'll come back and do a lot of coaching. But just, I see you. It's so good to be seen. And enjoy being with each other.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Scott. I'm going to, Vivienne and I will put everybody into breakout rooms now. And please do share from that incredible presence awareness that you all have. And Dr. Scott will be hopping around into various rooms. It'll be at random. And after about 8 to 10 minutes, I just want to mind the time so we have lots of time afterwards as well to engage with Dr. Scott. Then we'll come back into the room. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Here we go. This is our breakout room. You're here with me and Viv.
Okay.
It's so good to see you, Patri.
Hi.
There you go.
It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to be seen. Yes, thank you.
Would anybody like to share what the experience has been like for you?
Okay, good. I can start.
Okay,
Christina.
lovely, lovely.
Whenever I am part of a Scott Knowles call, I feel that this man, I think, has a limitless heart. He brings so much love. And as a result, I just feel myself being able to be part of that and, you know, join the energy and just move myself forward in a way that I just don't think I can do by myself. I think the energy of this call has been just amazing and so encompassing and loving. So I just feel like I've moved a step forward. That's kind of the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. When I first met Dr. Scott, Vivienne actually introduced me to him because I wasn't on the Money EQ quest at that time. I was going to ask him a question. And right away he said, Christina, I know that you need to preamble, but I don't need to hear the story. He brought me right into my heart space. And it was instantaneous. My heart just opened and the tears started to flow. And he asked me what I felt like. And it was sadness. It was sadness because I hadn't finished my book. And so I guess what I'm sharing is that I realized that my mind, it gets stuck in a story. But when we tap right into the feelings of what is really important to deal with, that's in the heart space. So that's been my most powerful experience with Dr. Scott. And I just want to say for everyone that we are admitting right now into the call, everybody's in breakout rooms. We are in a breakout room. So here we are. We need to just carry on. And I'm going to leave Vivienne here so I could check into all the other breakout rooms. Viv, is that okay? And perfect. Yes, and I will mind the room. Thank you. So we're in a breakout room. Sorry, guys, this has never happened before where we actually have 6 people in a room that has no number. So
I think we're not in a room, Chris. I think we're not in the room. I think we're just in the main room together.
Okay, because I see you as unassigned as well, but I don't see Daniela, nor do I see Natalia. Patri, you're getting inside scoops on what's happening here with the Mindvalley circle. So please forgive us, but of course there's no accidents.
Okay.
Jenny, perfect. All right, let's just start sharing here. We're just talking about being in the heart space. And the last exercise that Dr. Scott brought us through was forgiveness, about releasing releasing what we hold on to and releasing the person that we have been holding a grudge with. So if anybody would like to share from that would be
good. I've just had a very, very unpleasant, difficult day today. So my heart is really hurting, and I'm feeling frustrated and angry at not being seen, heard, blah 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 blah. So his exercise was very timely, and I'm struggling with it because I didn't hear all of it. But that sense of being able to, I think, no matter what somebody else triggers in you, come back to your own sovereignty, even if the child inside you is so pissed with them for not doing X, Y, and Z, and you want them to make you feel better because they've been vile, and you have to go home to yourself and answer to all of that too. But to know that somewhere inside there, when you allow that healing is within you to free yourself from the person that you might feel is entrapping you. So I'm kind of grateful to connect, because I feel like I would really love a giant hug today.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you for that beautiful share.
Sending you one. Virtual hug for Jenny.
Thank you so much.
Gorgeous. And I just want to make sure that Natalia and Jackie know that you are very welcome here in this room with me and Vivienne, and two of my closest friends, Vivienne and Jenny. And so lovely to meet you, Patri. Anybody else want to share with us?
Yeah, today is my first circle here. I met Scott in the EQ finance. Yes, the real thing is that the thing I feel I feel so stuck, because 2 years ago I have to move because I tried to live my life. Yes, but the thing is that I feel I have to release all the past I have take with me. Yes, because I feel that I can do what I have to do to feel good. Yes, and today, in the easy way, easy, lovely way that the Scots drive the things, it's like for me it's easier to release this. I don't know if you know what I mean. Yes, sorry, because of, my English today is not really good. Yeah, but it's like this. Sometimes it's really important for me to belong. Yeah. Yes. Because it's the thing that I really missed in my life. Yeah. I had no place to belong, so. And when you think you have to belong to yourself, yes, yes, it's okay. I have to believe it. So I'm so pleased and so grateful to find people like you that so lovely and make me really feel I can belong to any place and my place. So thank you so much. I'm sorry because of this.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you,
Patri. Thank you very much for sharing that. You're very welcome here, and Vivienne and I both give you all our love and a breakout hug to you. We have all felt that way. I have felt many times in my life that I don't belong anywhere, and many times in a fetal position and just, wanting the pain to end. And I know that if there's hope for me, there is absolutely hope for everyone. And I don't need to tell you my story. I just want to tell you, I have gone to the depths, and I've wanted to end my life in more than one occasion. And this Mindvalley community is so very dear and close to my heart. And it is really where I feel I belong. And I mean, it's a family to me. So you're definitely in the right place. So thank you. Thank you for that share.
Yes, I really feel it. Thank you.
So whoever's just joined us, I see a C. Bauer. I don't know how to address you except for Mr. Bauer. But Jackie would like to share next, right? So just please come on. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I found this in the community, which is beautiful. And my heart has been, my heart definitely opened today. And it was, it felt like it was breaking for the longest time. And just sharing in what Scott, Dr. Scott, I knew him from Money EQ, and I'd gone through this exercise once, but this time it was a lot bigger because I am following my dreams, and I keep getting stopped, and I think some of it is past, and I just it's so amazing that you do have to find a tribe, you do have to find a like-minded people that will support you, because not everybody in your immediate circles knows what you're talking about. They don't follow you. They don't go through the training that you go through. They don't go through the exercises. They don't go through any of that mind expansion. And it's funny, in the last couple of years, my dad keeps telling me how proud of me he is. And I'm just like, huh? I always wanted to hear that. But it's just the changes that I've been making. And I'm hoping that with your support, because I don't like being seen, I really don't. With your support, I will start busting through the fears that I have, because I don't like being seen. To a point, I can talk. That's a given. That's easy, but I don't want to be seen. So it's a very like, I know where I'm going. That's what I mean. What I'm supposed to be doing, what is calling and pulling on my heart and asking me to do what I need to do, that will force me to be seen. And that's the part that scares the crap out of me. So being honest with you, I was just like, oh, I don't want to do those, but I have to, because anytime in the last 5-10 years that I've written down my dreams, they're exactly the same things. Create this, create that, create. And it's the same company, giving back to the community, children, this, that. And then it's like, I have to do this before I die. Dreams, they're exactly the same things. Create this, create that, create. And it's the same company, giving back to the community, children, this, that. And then it's like, I have to do this before I die.
Jackie, I just want you to know, the breakout rooms, I see everyone's coming back.
Thanks, Jackie. Everyone's coming back. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I see the beautiful Jackie on the screen. Nice to see you. Wow, that was amazing. We're hearing a little feedback. Is that me?
You're fine.
Oh, there we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
you too. You are doing such an amazing job for us. Thank you so much. So let's step into our last movement. Which is really quick, and then we'll just open the floor for questions. I'll stick around if you've got stuff. But I want to get us through the fourth movement, which is being love to invite love. So T.S. Eliot writes, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown, remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple tree not known, because not looked for but heard, half heard in the stillness between two waves of the sea." So as we return to where we began today, let's take a breath together. Find the opening in your heart, the space that is love. Let yourself simply tune into that place in your heart, perhaps a bit more, even a lot more open now than we began our journey a little bit ago. One of the beautiful things about love is that when you allow yourself to feel it now, it is only limited when you look for it outside yourself. When you connect into the love that you are, breathing into the love that now you can discover, breathing into that love now, you can discover that you are a wellspring of love and infinite supply. The more you create, the more there is. So continue to allow that love to grow and expand. And allow yourself with soft, gentle, loving gaze to look whoever you can see in the room, in this room or the room that you're sitting in now. If there's pets or people there, you can look at them too. Each gaze filled with love and kindness, allowing yourself to receive the gaze of others, to see and be seen, to feel your place of belonging in this community. And as you continue this gaze, I'm just going to close this movement with a simple poem from Mary Oliver called The Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles to the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clear blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Take a few breaths here, continuing to hold that space in your heart. I want to thank you for being on this heart-opening adventure with me today. Every single person here, whether you spoke a word or chatted or not, your presence has added to all of our experience. It would not have been the same without you. I see you, and I'm so glad you're here. In a moment, we're going to return to a bit of conversation. I often have more space throughout the call for you to talk, but today it's been more about kind of introducing you to an experience than talking. And so if the words come slowly, that's okay too. You're welcome to ask any questions that you might have, share your experience of what today has been, ask for support, ask about super resilience. Christina is going to help with getting folks on the mic, so just raise your hands. So the team can support us. And just as a note, I know people have lots of questions in the chat, but I need to hear your voice to know what's really under the question. Under as we call it. Almost never is the question someone asks me on paper what their real question is. So I'm going to just answer the questions people have up on the chat. And if it's a question you want to ask in a chat, or just in voice, if it's a question you want to ask in chat, you can ask Edie, and she may be able to help you.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. And I just want to gently remind everyone so that we can have as many people share with Dr. Scott here. If you can keep your questions concise and under a minute, please, that would be great. The first hand that I've seen is Julie Blackburn. Please come on, Julie.
Hello, Miss Julie.
Hi. So I have a very specific question, and it's very much about how do I know I can do this for myself, and
So I'm going to pause you for a second. Can you do me a favor? So when I coach, I often ask people to pause when I notice that they're not in their bodies. So it's okay. This is just part of my call in life, is to bring people back into their bodies. So can you just breathe down into your belly? And it feels like a bunch of fears coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So what is it that you're most needing support with?
Um, I have two beautiful children, and I would love to be able to foster their feeling of belonging. Um, they both are adopted. One was in with his parents for 13 months. The other came straight here. So the difference between them is so different. And I find a sense of not belonging for one and one belonging. And it creates such an energy in our home.
Okay.
And
so
it's
I get
hard.
you. I get you. Okay. So here's the thing with kids. How old are they?
9 and 8.
So 9 and 8. So we're designed to learn how to regulate our systems based on the adults in our environment.
Right.
So the kids didn't have an opportunity, especially the one that has not yet had a sense of belonging, to find some adult to co-regulate with, meaning like calibrate. Like, if I know I belong, you guys have been doing this with me all day in this whole call, because I work to create a sense of belonging, wholeness, connection in myself so that you can feel it in yourself. So the beginning for helping kids do this is actually to make sure that you feel like you're really in your belonging space, or in the space I call green brain. And then there's some really simple things that you can teach kids to begin to know that they're first in their body and then beyond. But a lot of it is just them having the space to be a little. It's almost like the book Where the Wild Things Are, letting the wild things in them be expressed. So their fear, lots of fear for kids who've been adopted, lots of, when will the rug get pulled out from me? When will I lose this home? When will these people reject me the way that my mother and father did? So for you, you're going to need to be even more calibrated to your own sense of belonging and safety and wholeness for them. Yeah, and this is, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but this is something that we do in Super Resilience. So you might think about coming and playing with us in there. Because it's, you got a taste of it today, but it takes the brain a while to learn the patterning. Because it's not like magic. We call it brain training, because you have to keep coming back to it. But the biggest piece is for you to have a center so the kids can calibrate, and to have space for all of that emotion, and teach them some ways that they can be okay with those emotions. And a lot of that comes by example. Beautiful question. Thank you. Thanks for bringing these beautiful kids into your life.
Your voice, actually, I have one. She's been sitting with me, and then she just kind of started to fall asleep. And the funny thing is that she only does that when she's in complete calmness, and in peace. And so she falls asleep a lot with us. But the thing is that in just hearing your voice, hearing the song at the beginning, she started to go. And then you said, ask for exactly what you want. She said, Mom, you moved, and that did not feel comfortable to me. So she moved back, and then she zonked out. So here's my little baby. She's just
beautiful
now. But thank you so much for your kind energy and your words. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
I see one hand up. Thank you, Julie. The question is, I know I wasn't wanted by my parents. Therefore, I have a lot of fears. I am frightful of everything, of things going wrong or of things going right. I am frightened of staying or leaving. Everything is frightening to me. It is pretty hard to live like this. What is the solution?
Yeah, that would be a hard place. I can feel that, like, in my body as you're talking about it. It's almost like I'm wearing a straitjacket. The way I work with this, essentially, there needs to be there's this beautiful musical called The Secret Garden. There kind of needs to be a secret garden for you, a space where you can go to and just feel safe. So we do a bunch of this in Super Resilience, but I can only do so much in short blocks. But the concept is to find this place of safety in you, get the brain to understand what that is. And safety doesn't mean like there's no threat. It means that your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So that's what I call green brain. Green brain is that place where you just feel calm and peaceful. Your red brain, your sympathetic nervous system, is hyperactivated. Like I can see it even just from the way you're sitting, the way your jaw is crazy tight. Like what if I say the wrong thing? When your sympathetic nervous system or red brain is activated, it's always pushing us into fight or flight. So it's like, do I need to defend myself? Do I need to? Actually, the funny one is there's 4 of them, and one of them is hide, and that's the one I think probably you're running more. Faint and freeze are the 2 that I suspect are your go-tos, to make yourself small so people don't notice you, and kind of, oh, I don't want to stick out. So we've got to get the green brain activated, and as the green brain activates, it's not really green, but it's your parasympathetic nervous system. You start a little place and then a little more and a little more and a little more, so that you just get comfortable being comfortable, which is going to be a new experience for you. It's brain training that takes me like weeks of people doing simple exercises to get the brain to reset. Because we have this kind of illusion that if we tell our brains to do something, that they will, but it's not the reality any of us live in. Right? We try to get ourselves to go running or eat better or do all these things all the time, and just giving ourselves, oh, let's do this, isn't enough. We actually have to train the brain so the patterning, that automatic habitual response, adjusts. Because something like, depending on who you're looking at, 67 to 90% of our life is just habituated brain patterning. So we want to switch the old pattern. You have this old pattern that goes danger, danger, danger all the time. We've got to switch it so we start doing exercises that allow safety, allow safety, allow safety. But again, it's not something I can do in a short question, but it's the bigger idea that would get you there. I could have talked about that for about 4 hours,
Yes.
because it's such an interesting piece, and I've watched so many people find more safety. And it's just so many of us were just hanging out in danger so much. I had that for so long. I remember I walked into a room once when I was taking a lot of the brain. I did 4 years of brain training. This extraordinary teacher in California. And he says to me one day when I walked in the room, he said, "Do you know how rude you are?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, this was someone I had a lot of love with, so it was okay for him to kind of shake me a little bit. He said, "Do you know how rude you are? Every room you walk into, you look for the person who's dangerous." Because that's what I had grown up with. I'd come home and I'd have to know, like, is my dad going to be crazy today or not? Is he going to be unsafe? And so that's what I learned how to do to survive. And he said to me, if you walked into a room full of kittens, you would look for the one that was dangerous. And my first thought, I kid you not, was, well, kittens tear shit up and they pee on things and they scratch you. Like, of course, I was still looking for that dangerous kitten, right? So that's a lot of where I learned this work. This, like, how do I get my brain to have a new experience, not tell a story. It's not about beliefs. It's an embodied experience.
Thank you, Dr. Scott, and everyone. I invite you to save the chat and look at some of the programs that Dr. Scott offers. So thank you for sharing with us today. Can we take one more question? We might go over by just a few minutes if that's okay with everyone. And Dr. Scott has offered to stay for a few more minutes. So the next hand that I see up is Gabriela Vasquez, please. Thank you.
Gabriela, welcome.
Hi, Dr. Scott. It's a real pleasure to listen to you live.
Oh, so nice to see you.
Thank you. This was a really intense experience for me. And the question I have is how to, I don't know if the right word is manage, but to manage or deal with the truth that you are not responsible for people changing and awakening. Because in the last exercise, I just released a lot of anger towards my mom because I know this is about changing me, but it's really sad and breaks my heart that she's just not willing to make decisions to change and to, improve her life and just be better, whatever that means for her. So it's really heartbreaking to see how much progress you do when you go inwards and do the work and show up for yourself, and people around you don't. So how do you do that?
So I have I love, we've got some jazz going on behind us. There's like a cello sound I hear. It's almost like we had a soundtrack. So I totally appreciate where you are with this. Like again, with my dad, I wanted this to change for years. So I had to make my own peace with this. What I start with is I have a concept that's anything we refuse to love can't be changed. And so that's the place I start with everyone in my life. If I'm unwilling to love them, I can't change them. Now, I know you love your mom. Part of love is a little bit more complex than what we call it. I love them. My heart goes out to them. But part of love is to allow the person to be who they are, fully and completely, to be on their own path in their own time. And so those emotions that come up, usually when we push, did you feel like when we were pushing our own emotions, like how much strength they get? So like I'm pushing down my anger, I'm pushing down my sadness, it just gets stronger. If I'm pushing my mom, I'm pushing my family, again, it's just repellent, right? And it creates more effort. There's no space in me that's seeing them. So the very first thing that I do is I sit with my own emotions around that. So like, you said it's really sad. Go through the process we did at the beginning of the call, that second movement, to just feel the sadness and be connected to the sadness and allow it to breathe and have space. Because what I would sense under the sadness from you is just this deep desire for connection. So if we can embrace the deep desire for connection, it's like, okay, well, could we find ways that are easier and more aligned with who you are to be connected with her? And I promise you the way to be connected with her is not to tell her to change herself. But if you just sit in your own space, like you allow yourself to open all of I'm doing this because I think of us as we have an internal river of emotion. So when we let the river run smooth and we are able to be present to our own emotions, then people just naturally come to us. So instead of going, Mom, I wish you'd change this, she goes, oh, wow, you seem so much happier, Gabriela. I don't know what's going on with you. She may not ever have words for it, but she'll lean in and calibrate to you. Just kind of almost like as if it's like a bat with sonar. And the funny thing is, with calibration, people don't necessarily know where the change is coming from. They just know they feel better. So they start to make some changes. So I do that in every call I'm on. I know that what I do especially when we're on a live call, is we're calibrating to each other. And we're just, the more I'm safe, the more I'm loving, the more I belong to myself, the more I give other people permission to do that too. And if you can start there and be with the emotions, let them breathe, there'll be more space for your mom to actually come to you instead of being pushed into something that she may not be ready for right now. Does that make sense?
Very much. Thank you. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Oh, thank you for asking. I think a lot of people hold those questions about parents. We always want to be connected to our parents, even when it's difficult.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. Big hug from Guatemala.
Big hug right back to Guatemala from Portland, Oregon.
Thank you very much, Gabby. Dr. Scott, it is 11:01 for me in Vancouver anyway. So there's a lot of ones there. It's great. Would you like to take one more question? There's one hand up.
Yeah, let's take the last one and we'll close with that one.
Beautiful. Okay, Rafaela, are you ready to share with us?
Yes, I'm ready.
So nice to see you, Rafaela.
Hi.
Thank you for being so
Dr. Scott.
patient and waiting for a spot. I so appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you so much. I'm very nervous right now to share it, but like I'm in Israel right now, in Tel Aviv, for the last 6 months, and I really had here my awakening call, because I was praying every day to find my way and to find like my purpose here. And I had like an awakening call that I felt myself with so much love, with so much light that I can share with people. And I have a lot of situations where people come naturally to me and ask for wisdom or how to lightening up their prayers, and it's coming natural, like my humor or like the joy of life. It's coming very natural. But once I'm thinking of adjusting to the system we are living in, and to make like to make out of a living out of it, there's coming a lot of pressure, and everything what's so good in me is like I'm losing myself when it comes to if you understand what I mean, if you understand where's your power, but you need to make kind of a living out of it, or to to adjust to a system, and that's where I'm losing myself. And therefore I wanted to ask you for like, what would you suggest me to
So let me ask you a question first. Why do you need to make a living at this?
Because you need somehow, you need somehow money, right?
So the only way that you can make money is through doing that piece?
No, but I mean, it's what I love to do, like to share my values,
Okay, that's a different statement than what you just said to me. So if you start with the love for it, I think there's some more space. Now, I teach business really weird, because I have been on a strange path for like 14 years in my life. So I think that you are a human first. So, which is not something the marketing world understands. So you are a human first who's having this experience. You're a healer second. And third, you have a business structure that allows for more of that to happen. So as you're playing in this space, like a lot of what you're bumping up against, it sounds like, is just nervousness and like, how do I make this work? How do I make money? There are plenty of people who can support you in that path. But I think the important thing is to center yourself in your own humanity first. So that when you're feeling fear, you go back to that place we started, right? Where's my fear? Because this is all feeling like fear to me. So, what is my fear trying to get me to do? What does it want me to know? To sit with all of those emotions and practice the wisdom, whatever's being opened up for you in your own life. I'm constantly amazed. For a long time, I was the person who the people speaking at the front of the room would call, because they would say, oh, I'm teaching all this stuff, I'm teaching to be wealthy, and I'm teaching, like, I stand up stage and I say everything's great, and they would come to me and they'd say, but my life is falling apart, my relationship is terrible, my health is awful. And so I was the person kind of in the background going, oh, so let's just adjust some of these things. And I say that because I think we look at these people who are, we think have it all together, and we're comparing ourselves to them, especially when we get started, and we go, but that person has all the things together. That person's all together. In my experience, if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and real, and we just teach from the heart, the business structures are fairly easy. But you have to let there be space, because as long as you're hungry, do you ever go to your refrigerator and you're really hungry? You're like, oh, and like basically you open the refrigerator and the first thing that falls out is the thing you eat. But then maybe you're still hungry, so you keep eating and eating and eating. When we're hungry, we have no choice, right? We're reactive. Right now you're hungry for money. So things are just falling on you. But when you can get yourself into a place of contentment, so a place of peace, there's more space for that to show up. So that you're not hungry, you're choosing, like, what feels best for me? How can I listen to my intuition? How can I listen? And it's not just intuition, by the way. I have done tons and tons of work with really smart people in the business world, usually pushing their models, but with my intuition. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to run a business intuitively. Some people say that, and it's kind of nuts. But you've got to get your internal house in order. so that you feel safe, you feel content, you know that you're not attached to making money, like it can flow, it's there for you. And then the structures come. And it feels like you're kind of trying to do it the reverse way. Like, let me build these structures from a place where I'm hungry. So I'm going to just pull in anybody. I'm going to try to make this work. And you literally strangle the wisdom that's inside that space. I see nodding heads. I think there's some people who have had this experience as well. Does that help?
Okay. Yes, it helped me. Thank you. It helped me too. You are totally right. We need to focus the roots first, and then the
then let the tree grow. That's a beautiful way to say it.
Oh. Okay. Thank you so much,
you.
Dr. Scott. It was a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you very much, everyone. This has been such a beautiful and amazing time with Dr. Scott Mills. And we're going to close the call now. And I would just like to invite Dr. Scott to say his last few words to us, to bring with us on this Valentine's Day and for the rest of the year during our shifting times here on planet Earth.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for all of you for being here. And thank you especially to Christina and Vivienne and Edie for creating such an amazing space and letting this day flow so amazingly. What I'd love to leave you with was reflecting on Valentine's Day and this notion of, where is my belonging? Is it here in me, or is it outside of me? We're always grasping, where can I find that place of belonging? Where can I find that love? What I'd love for you to do is feel into that place that we just acknowledged. It was there all along, but we acknowledged and expanded that place of love inside of you. And to remember that love and belonging are in infinite supply inside of you. When you're looking outside of you, it feels like there's never enough. So as a beginning point, come back to heart, come back to your center, breathe in your experience of love, open your heart, and then give without expectation. Give love to every person that you see, that you talk to. And it doesn't have to be giant. It can be as simple as a commitment to being kind to the grocery checkout person, to writing a little note, to being kind to yourself, to being smiling at people, even if you've got a mask on, knowing that they can feel your smile even if they can't see it. So that place of generosity actually creates more love. So from an infinite supply, we expand the love that's all around us, and we create the circuit that we've been spending time in this morning. So that's my invitation to you. Just remember you are infinite supply, and by giving, you create more.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Scott. And I believe that Edie has posted the links for everyone to be able to reach you. And this has just been so amazing for me, a heart opener. I'm almost speechless, just very touched by your presence for the Mindvalley community. And I'd like to invite Vivienne to say a few words before we close the call.
Thank you to Christina and Dr. Scott and Edie and my beautiful, beautiful Mindvalley family. My heart is full. I couldn't have thought of a better way to end my day. It's evening here. But just to really acknowledge you, Dr. Scott, from my own heart. I did one of your love retreats last year. And you, for me, embody limitless love. And you hold that space for us and you show us what's possible. And my heart is overflowing today. And I just feel the energy of our beautiful family here on the call. And I'm just so grateful that we could spend time together. So thank you for your generosity. But more than that, thank you for your love, because it comes across so beautifully whenever we connect on a call with you. So thank you.
Oh,
From my heart to yours.
I love it. Fully received.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. My heart is just so open, and my love for our entire community, and that's why Vivienne and I do these calls. And I couldn't even have requested of the universe and divinity for a more perfect speaker for us today. And this is just such a gift. So thank you, Dr. Scott, for your big, beautiful heart and for bringing us into belonging to our community and back to ourselves. So thank you all. And until next time, teach only love, for that is what you are. Mwah. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Everything is easy with you. Easy, easy. Everything is easy.